So about a month ago, I did a Wave 4 report card video, and I don't know if I've formally done grades for all the other 3 waves at this point. I know I've talked about them excessively, whether it be on Twitter or even in some YouTube videos in the past. I know I did a Wave 1 one where I talked about how the game was being changed. But I wanted to go through each course real briefly and give a letter grade based on how well they play, fit, if I think it's cool, really anything. So let's not waste any time, let's get right into it. And we'll start with Wave 1 on Paris Promenade. So I think that this track was awful in Tour, but I like it a lot more in Deluxe. I think the driving mechanics make it a lot better, soft drifting, UMTs. Having an actual controller in your hand really makes you appreciate it more, I think. So I would say it did transition well. Lap 1 was actually a lot shorter in Tour, and they made the decision to kind of lengthen it and have Lap 2 be the same, and I think that was for the better. Overall, pretty satisfying course to front run. I'm giving it an A-. It's gotten better with time. Toad Circuit. So this was kind of the low effort remake and a lot of better options were present. There were a lot of weird bumps, but still we were going to get a basic course, and I think that this is one of the better ones they could have selected, and it has a pretty good music remix as well. Considering that this is a first time remake, I think that this is forgivable, and as such, I'm just going to give it a D. Choco Mountain. So there's nothing wrong with Choco Mountain, but nothing really right either. I know a lot of people were nostalgic for this course. I understand, MK64, fun times, all of that. And there also weren't a ton of other options from MK64 that I would label as definitively better options. It feels like it fits, it belongs, it's not particularly spectacular in my opinion. I think it's just solid. So with that, I'm giving it a C+. Now this is going to be a pretty controversial one, I think, because Coconut Mall was a fan favorite that a lot of people believe was a big downgrade. I know it lost a lot of its charm with all the Miis in the original, but I really do enjoy how it plays in this game, especially with the new meta. It feels very fast and fun to drive for that, and it's personally my favorite version of Coconut Mall. My grade is an A-. Tokyo Blur is the epitome of just fine. It's a very inoffensive track that's just a bit bland. In my opinion, it is completely average. Nothing much else to say here. Grade C. DS Shroom Ridge. So talk about a course that feels like it just fits right in. I love how it drives. I really like the fit in this game. There was only one real traffic course in this game before it, and it was one that people did not like very much. It was a first time retro track, the music was amazing, everything was perfect. As a perpetually underrated track in this series, I think that Wave 1 was the perfect spot for it to finally shine and cash in on the initial hype of the Booster Course Pass, and we're getting plenty of time to enjoy it as such. It was the only track from this wave to kind of take a long time to arrive to Tour, which made it not really feel like a Tour course in my eyes. The shortcut didn't feel too imbalanced, and the second one was a cut I always expected in a remake. I'm just a little surprised that they actually did it. I have no complaints whatsoever, and I'm still really happy it's here. It's an A+ for me. GBA Sky Garden. So they didn't need to bring this course back, but they did, and it kind of feels like they just defiled it. The mushrooms and bounces are very weird, and I will admit it's kind of fun at times, a little bit of a guilty pleasure even, but overall, this was one of my favorite courses in Mario Kart DS and in the series in general, and it just felt a little bit disappointing in this game. Grade D+. So Ninja Hideaway was a really good opening course to have like as a Tour original, but the respawns and out of bounds zones are really poor and hold me off from wanting to give this an A. I'm very grateful that it was in Wave 1, because the other alternatives were Merry Mountain and Sky High Sunday, which I am not nearly as bullish on. So grade B+. Though I didn't hate it very much, Wave 1 was definitely not nearly as popular, and I think that this course saved it from being slandered even more. There was a lot of initial hate for the Booster Course Pass, a lot of people calling it lazy, saying that there was not much value in all of it, and I think Ninja Hideaway played a very important role in making people think twice about being too hard on the pass, and that value can't really be understated. Moving on to Wave 2, starting with New York Minute. This is a fine track, but did not really need to have the slippery road in every single section, especially the ending where it's all indoors as well. The music here is outstanding. I just want to like it more than I actually do, but I wouldn't really call it disappointing either. It's kind of weird. I wish that coins were more easily accessible. It's definitely one of the courses where I notice it more, because playing in the middle of the pack here somehow feels worse than even the rest of the tracks in this game. I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's bad by any means. My grade is a C+. So SNES Mario Circuit 3. When I played this, all I could think about was, why was this brought back again, and why is it so damn wide? It's just a bagging course that is lifeless on top of it all. The remix is not really interesting, it looks plain and basic, and I can't help but feel that they did a much better job in Mario Kart Wii on this one. Grade F. Sorry to all my MC3 fans out there. N64 Calamari Desert. So, I maintain that this was not a good selection, but they at least made it better than I thought it would be in this game. The train track route was honestly a solid change that I think made it a lot better, because there was an excessive amount of off-road that just got taken away from one lap, which makes catching up not brain dead easy. I've always found this course to be very overrated and plain, but you have to understand the context of where this course came from. The courses in Super Mario Kart were really boring, I'm not gonna lie, I'm sorry to the SMK fans, it's just true. And the first 3 courses in Mario Kart 64 weren't much better. Luigi Raceway was pretty plain, Moo Moo Farm was Moo Moo Farm, Koopa Troopa Beach was kinda cool, but Calamari Desert was really the first track in the entire series to kind of throw a curveball with the trains and making you stop and all that. As such, a lot of the early MK players have a lot of nostalgia for this track. I kind of wanted to clown the selection for, just playing off of said nostalgia because there's not really much else of value here in my opinion. But I will admit that this is my favorite iteration of Calamari Desert, which isn't saying a lot, but I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't expecting to give a second remake of Calamari Desert anything above a D. Grade C-. DS Waluigi Pinball. So this is one of the best remakes and a no-brainer fan favorite to add to the Booster Course Pass. It's fun to drive, there's confined sections, open sections, lots of different coin options. It's front run heavy and forces you to adapt to new scenarios on the fly. But I'm only going to give it an A because they didn't redo the music, they removed one of the sound effects. The lag can sometimes be an issue on lap 1, and it's already returned in 7. While this is my favorite track in the game, and the people that know me closely know I'm very annoying about it, if it was a first time retro, I'd probably give it an A+, but it doesn't really matter, I'm happy it's here, and I'm glad I get to play it all the time. Sydney Sprint was the tour course that really started to make me change my perception a little bit of these city tracks. I think it's very fun and lively, it actually had coins, good music, it was vibrant, had fun driving strats, and a pretty cool no item cut. It really just felt different from the other cities when it came out, and overall, I don't have many complaints about it. I think everybody got tired of it, there's a little bit of Sydney fatigue because it was very popular for a while, but I still believe it's quite a fun time, and while it's not one of my 10 or 15 favorite courses in the game, I really enjoy its addition. Grade A. GBA Snowland. So the penguins are adorable, the music's great, and it looks awesome as a first time remake, but the shortcut, it may have been a little too much. It's not a terrible ad, but they did some GBA courses more justice in my opinion. It's nostalgic for me still. At one point, this was one of my more liked courses from Mario Kart Super Circuit, but I don't see it as like a standout course that I'm picking very frequently. I'm not saying I'm mad it's in the game by any means. I still enjoy playing it every once in a while, but the grade's just going to be a C+ for me. It's fun enough. Wii Mushroom Gorge. So this could have been a disaster, and it wasn't. It's pretty fun to drive, but it feels a little random at times. The cut feels a little weird in this game, but it's still pretty fun. I kind of like the risk and reward that you get with the fence cut as well. It doesn't feel like you can win consistently off running or bagging. It kind of feels like a mixed bag on how a race is actually going to turn out. Obviously, it's a little bit janky. It's enjoyable enough, but not something I pick personally. I think it's actually a little bit overpicked online as a counter for bikes, but that's not really the track's fault. But we're going to give it a B-. It's pretty solid, not my favorite thing in the world, but definitely inoffensive, which admittedly kind of surprises me. And wrapping up Wave 2, we have Sky High Sunday. They took a swing here, I think they missed, but it has a cool theme, fun music, but drives a bit too simple for my liking. I always felt that there isn't really a lot you can do to pull away outside of delivering hits on this course. It's one of those tracks that, like, if I was playing like an NA Open, I would be absolutely terrified, because all you really have to do to drive functionally on this course is hold A and trick a bunch. I think the off-road turn and the needless F-Zero physics just make it feel awkward to drive as well, and I wish they kept the theming, but just went a different direction with this track design. My grade is a D here. I still prefer Sweet Sweet Canyon, to be honest. Alright, Wave 3. So London Loop starts us off. The off-road cuts I think are a little ridiculous, but it's quite fun to drive, I admit. It's a little bit unserious, but in a funny way. It's not something I pick online, but I enjoy playing on it. There's like a guilty pleasure aspect to it, I admit. And I don't feel like there's a lot of missed potential, and it turned out better than I expected for a London-themed course, to be honest. Grade B-. GBA Boo Lake. So not only do I find it quite fun and challenging to drive well, but they seamlessly incorporate the underwater mechanics, and it doesn't even feel forced, and I really think that's cool. While I often critique courses that try just a little too hard to implement underwater, this remake feels like the vision they had for the course back in 2001. The cut still exists, but it's not broken or overpowered. First Place can actually go in and place traps in it. There's good coin placement in my opinion. I love a good short running course, and this provided one in a game that was lacking them badly, using a first time retro course as that. Excellent work here. The grade is an A+. Rock Mountain. So this was not a good game to remake the course for, in my opinion. The excessive gliding time really exposes how plain gliders feel in this game as opposed to Mario Kart 7, and the giant off-road patch is still there, and the lack of boost panels feels weird as well after playing MK7. It's a first time retro, yes, but it kind of just exists, and I don't think it looks particularly great either. To me, it doesn't really justify its existence other than making the Rock Cup, I guess, make sense or something, so I can't really give it a high grade. It's getting a D+ from me. Then to round out the cup, we have Maple Treeway. To me, it feels like neither an upgrade or a downgrade. It feels much simpler to play than on Mario Kart Wii or 7 in terms of driving, and I'm not sure if that's really good or bad. It's a remake of a popular course that we've already had before. It doesn't stick out to me as super fun to play, but there's nothing offensive about it. I like it, just don't love it. Feels like a B to me. But there's something else we need to talk about. I've got a lot of people telling me that this course is the greatest thing since sliced bread, but they hate Waluigi Pinball, and all the reasons why they hate Waluigi Pinball are things that also apply to this track. I don't want to be a Maple Treeway hater because I actually like Treeway, but it feels like a lot of people are trying to turn me into one, I'm not gonna lie. Berlin Byways. Personally, I'm a fan of the first lap, but lap 2 and 3 are a little weird to me. I don't quite vibe with it. I don't know if it's the off-road cut at the end, it feels very excessive, or the fact that lap 3 is stupidly short and compact. It makes shock dodging feel absurdly powerful, especially when you get to drive through all the traffic in the second half. I'm not the biggest fan, but I don't hate it by any means. It's just a C for me, feels completely average. One of my lesser liked cities, but it's certainly not bad. And while I do enjoy the music on the course, I cannot help but feel it is a little bit overrated. I like it, but a lot of people are treating it like top 5 in the series history, and I'm not sure if I agree with that. DS Peach Gardens. So as a certified Mario Kart DS kid, I will say I like my MKDS tracks, but this one for some reason never really vibed with me. But I really wanted to like this course in this game. When I looked at it in the trailers, I was like, oh, it looks kind of fun. I like that there's a lot of, extra tricks that feel natural, and they weren't there in Mario Kart Wii, and it just felt right. It felt like the track felt quicker. The Monty moles at the end, weren't really a hazard as much as they were a tool to, kind of get ahead now. So things were looking good. And then lap 3 happened. So after Wave 2, they truly felt like they were in their bag after they modified Calamari Desert and got a bunch of praise for doing so. I was even one that praised them because I think that it made Calamari Desert better. Unfortunately, I don't think that the change they made on Peach Gardens actually benefit the track in any way whatsoever. I think it made it a lot worse actually. The main shortcut on the course is absurdly powerful to the point where you have to take it lap 3 even in the front, even when you don't have mushrooms, and at this point, everybody is using stars and mushrooms to catch up at the very end, and it becomes a spam fest every time. The track is 15 seconds longer than it needed to be because of this change, and honestly, it feels a lot more luck-based as a result of the course being a little bit longer and having that cut at the very end. The gliding section, I guess is cool casually. You get to go face-to-face with all the gigantic character models, and I think it's pretty cool the first time. But it really starts to lose its charm after a while. The final item set feels awkward because you have to go for the doubles because shrooms feel pretty much required to get a good result. It really just turns everything into a circus. I like that you can trick off the ledges in general, but right before the last set it feels a little bit weird. Like mentioned, I was never a big fan of this course in MKDS or MKWii, but I was open-minded and excited for potential new changes. I was left utterly disappointed, questioning why they even had to remake the course a second time when there's A, plenty of good first-time retros left to be remade, and B, way better options for DS courses to reuse on top of it. Grade D, and I really didn't want it to be, but unfortunately, it is. Merry Mountain. So despite it coming out just last wave, this is truly the most forgettable course in the DLC so far. I don't know if we've all mentally agreed to pick this in December only, but it has been a while since I've seen it picked with one recent exception. But I think the beginning of the track is pretty cool, but the second half is a little bit of a letdown. I'm not huge on the very big off-road shortcuts, even if you skip an item set to do it. I guess there's some risk and reward there. The downhill section, though, goes on for a painfully long amount of time. The glider feels like it doesn't add anything to the course. Is it the worst thing ever? I wouldn't say so, but was it a good course? I would say not really. Grade D+. Finally, 3DS Rainbow Road. Despite them removing the iconic no item cut at the very end, I like this course a lot more in this game than I did Mario Kart 7. I don't think it is the greatest thing ever like many seem to think, but it works well enough in this game, and I think it is much more satisfying to drive than in Mario Kart 7. As a first time remake, I don't have many complaints. I do think coins are a bit too scarce and that front running is absurdly powerful. There's a lot of space between item sets in the second part of the track as well, and ordinarily I wouldn't say that these things are problems, but actually surviving the beginning feels a little bit luck oriented. The section where you do a 360 turn with the 4 tricks is as laggy as any turn in the game, but unlike other courses where lag is annoying, the lag here feels a bit more consequential. Either you go wide and lose a bunch of time, or essentially it feels like you're gambling on the possibility of losing your race right then and there if somebody lags up and bumps you at the wrong time. I know it's a fan favorite, which justifies the selection to begin with, and I think that they could have done a lot worse with this course as well. It's just never been my cup of tea, really. My grade is just a B. So I would wrap the video up right now, but there are a few modifications I also want to make to Wave 4, just 3. The first is Amsterdam Drift, and I'm bumping this up a letter grade from a C to a B. I really enjoy lap 1 now, and the first part of lap 3 is kind of cool as well for the garden sections. I admit it's growing on me, and it feels a lot faster than I was expecting it to. DK Summon I'm also moving a letter grade up, but it's up from an F to a D. I kind of like it now, but it's really janky still with awful respawns, and most of my original complaints were kind of valid still. It feels like a custom track. I don't think you should have to TT a course a bunch of times just to be somewhat viable, even in normal worldwide races on it. It is a first time retro, one of my favorite courses, but I still think it's a pretty disappointing remake, and the weirdest course in the game on top of it. Like, some of the clips I've seen with the half-pipe at the end, man, it's just indefensible. I'm just gonna be honest with y'all. And finally, Bangkok Rush, I'm actually moving it down, I think from an A- to a B. The thing is about this course is I never really loved it, but I didn't really have a big knock on it. But the more I've been playing it, the more that I've kind of felt like it's been a little bit spammy. The split path sections are still nice, but it is quite compact for a lot of it. It feels hard to pull coins, and honestly, I don't really enjoy driving it as much as I felt like I did the first week is all. There's nothing wrong with it, I find it kind of solid, but at times it does feel a little bit dull for me. I'm moving it to a B, which is still pretty solid. I don't think you can classify me as a hater for that, but I initially had it as very good, and I'm just not sure if I believe that's still the case. With that all said, these are my grades up to this point. Feel free to debate me as always. I try to get back to comments as long as there is something to really comment to and maybe spark some discussion on. But that's going to do it for now. I think I've talked long enough. This is a lot of courses. So have a good night, and I'll see you in the next video.